Which brings us to this video of Mr. Brown stealing from a convenience store and pushing the clerk around. Agitators call the release of the video a smear against Michael Brown and his family, further inflaming the situation. But facts are not smears. And this goes to Mr. Brown's state of mind on the day he was killed. Americans have a right to know what happened leading up to the shooting. You don't suppress an important piece of information in a case like this when only one side of the story is being reported by the media.
An important piece of information? One side of the story is being reported? What exactly do you mean when you say that? As far as I know, there are about 6 to 7 sides of the story according to eyewitness testimony. Now tell me this, why is this theft so important? Oh right, because that's the state of mind he was in. The relevance of the allegations of strong-arm robbery are hardly relevant to the actual shooting of Mike Brown. If it is actually true that Brown did in fact steal from a store for $2 tobacco products, which is debatable as the footage has been interpreted that he actually did pay for the product, and speculation on that arises since there was no 911 phone call from the clerk. You can't assume that he was going on some sort of rampage where he starts with petty theft and continues on by assaulting a police officer. That is called the slippery slope fallacy.
Which is generally terrified of any racial situation. Then there's the looting. Disgraceful. And one guy even has a gun, all right, shoots the lock off the door while his cohorts break in and steal the merchandise. It doesn't get any lower than this. The people rioting and looting in Ferguson are dishonoring the memory of Michael Brown and his grieving family. They are insulting them. Again, flat out disgraceful.
I think we can come to the general consensus that stealing and theft is generally wrong. I mean, there are a few outliers of people who disagree with me and say that the looting is justified, but me and the majority of people will agree that this is not okay, and addressing it is pretty irrelevant because that's a separate case and that should be tried at a separate time, and there will always be extremists on every side of every issue.
The Factor has been investigating those arrested. On Monday night, 78 people were taken into custody, and we believe about 30 of them have criminal records. Only four out of the 78 are from Ferguson. Many of the others are troublemakers who just streamed into town. But the liberal media will never report that, nor will they report the true picture of criminal justice in the USA. Instead, NBC News pays Al Sharpton to deliver garbage like this.
A young man, 18 years old, shot down in the streets unarmed. And rather than you address it, you try to smear the young man rather than uphold the principles of justice and dignity. I want you to know these parents are not going to cry alone. They're not going to stand alone. They're not going to fight alone. We have had enough.
Enough of what, Al? Enough of what? Police efficiency?
What is your idea, Bill O'Reilly, of efficiency? Is killing an unarmed man efficient in your eyes? I guess you are right in a sense, because it's much more efficient to shoot a man with no weapon than it is to tase him or to shoot him in the leg. Or we can go even further. Perhaps you feel that because you feel he's a thug, a black person, you think that it would be efficient to end his life early than to cause any more disturbance in America. Just end his life and save all of us civilized people the trouble of dealing with this nuisance. In that clip you just showed, everything he said was absolutely ethically correct.
In 2012, the last stats available from the FBI, there were about 12 million arrests in the USA. That averages out to 34,000 arrests per day. In 99.9% of those cases, the perpetrator was not killed by police. In fact, just over 400 fatal police shootings a year are recorded in this country, according to the FBI. So let me restate, 12 million arrests a year, 400 fatal shootings, many of them justified. And Al Sharpton has the nerve to insult the American police community, men and women risking their lives to protect us. This charlatan has the gall to do that, and NBC News is paying him. My God.
Here is another shocking statistic, Mr. Bill O'Reilly. Blacks are 21 times more likely to be assassinated by the American police than whites. 21. So the issue is not general homicide. The issue is police injustice. As for myself and many people who agree with me, we want an indictment. And although this video was published before the matter, I am still outraged.
Being more forthright about what happened instead of being too apologetic. You know, the media treats this with kid gloves because everybody is afraid to really say the truth, to really criticize the actions of Michael Brown and blame Michael Brown for his own death because people are afraid of being called a racist. Look at the way the press reports this. I'm reading articles, Washington Post, like the headline, grand juries normally give the police the benefit of the doubt. Articles like that incite violence because it gets people to think that there was doubt here and that maybe the officer just got lucky. His side was believed because he was a policeman or because he was white. There is no benefit of the doubt because there is no doubt. There is certainty of what happened. All of the witnesses who claimed that Michael Brown was surrendering were lying. Now, maybe if the prosecutor had the balls to prosecute these lying witnesses for perjury, maybe that would send a message. But he's saying, well, I think they actually believed what they were saying. Why would you come to that conclusion? They changed their story repeatedly as the evidence came out refuting their testimony. They were inconsistent. Their testimony was inconsistent with the forensic evidence and inconsistent with their own statements. They're lying witnesses. The only witnesses that were consistent.
Are you kidding me? The truth is that 91% of black homicide victims are killed by other blacks. 91%.
My wheels are already spinning trying to think about what it would be like if I have a son. He's more likely to get paid more at a job. He's more likely to actually get into a job. He's more likely to not be incarcerated. And one of the biggest ones is he's 21 times less likely to be killed by a police officer. Now think about that. That means 21 young black kids would have to get killed by a police officer before it's even likely on average that my son as a white male in America would get killed.
We also hear today that Officer Wilson has an orbital blowout fracture of his eye socket. That is why there is an investigation and a grand jury and a trial process.
But until then,